A show of anger followed by threats of retaliation, but until recently it had been all talk, no action.
A slap was delivered last night. But what is important is that the seditious presence of America in the region should be ended.
This statement came after the US targeted Iran's second most powerful man, General Qasem Soleimani. As Trump readies and sends thousands of troops to Iraq, 5,000 US troops to be exact, on what he is calling a peacekeeping mission to fight so-called Islamic State. This decision by the US reflects years of its foreign policy, which has characterized US-Iraqi relations. The Trump administration was met with fierce opposition by the Iraqi government, with Washington refusing to recognize Iraq's call to withdraw all US troops. With Trump nearing the end of his term, it's now up to any successive administration to deal with the political mess he has helped create. And with the will for increased Iraqi sovereignty from Iranian elements of influence, it's a tough task. But there are many other elements at play that have deepened Iraq's sectarian society, and that's Iran's overarching influence on Iraqi politics, which has led to Washington fearing losing its influence in the region. But direct US-Iranian confrontation over the past weeks have sharpened the position of Iraq's powerful Shiite Muslim political blocs and armed groups, which are leading calls for the coalition troops to leave. So far, though, it seems those calls are falling on deaf ears. It began last month with an attack against a US military installation in Iraq by a pro-Iran militia group that killed one American and wounded several soldiers. US forces responded with airstrikes on militia forces near the Syrian border that resulted in 80 casualties. Outrage over what one Iraqi official called a mother of all escalations was quickly overshadowed by a militia-led assault on the US embassy in Baghdad. President Trump then ordered a drone strike that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani shortly after his arrival at Baghdad's airport, January 3rd. 2 days later, at a parliamentary session boycotted by both Sunnis and Kurds, was more supportive of the US presence. Shia majority lawmakers voted to order Abdel Mahdi to work towards the end of the presence of any foreign troops on Iraqi soil and prohibit them from using its land, airspace and water for any reason. The support for US and foreign forces to leave has never been greater. The situation had prompted Iraqis to march towards the Green Zone, attacking the American embassy, to them a symbol of modern imperialism. More than 500 people had been killed since the violence started, with much of the bloodshed blamed on Iranian-backed militias, opposed by the protesters. Tuesday's attempted embassy storm took place after mourners held funerals for fighters killed in a Baghdad neighborhood, after which they marched on to the heavily fortified Green Zone and kept walking until they reached the embassy. Security guards were seen retreating inside the compound. Protesters were also seen hanging Iraqi flags alongside yellow flags belonging to Hezbollah on the walls. The US military carried out airstrikes on Sunday against the Iranian-backed Hezbollah. Washington claimed it was acting in retaliation for last week's killing of an American contractor in the rocket attack on the Iraqi military base. The protesters also raised the flags of powerful paramilitary groups, of which Hezbollah is part of. With many protesters attempting to climb over the walls, chanting "Death to America." The US soldiers deployed, trying to protect the Green Zone and the embassy.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. As President, my highest and most solemn duty is the defense of our nation and its citizens. Last night, at my direction, the United States military successfully executed a flawless precision strike that killed the #1 terrorist anywhere in the world, Qasem Soleimani. Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel, but we caught him in the act and terminated him.
The escalation of tensions in the Middle East has led to many taking to the streets, opposing any military action against Iran or Iraq.
We oppose the occupation of Iraq. We oppose sanctions on Iran.
The way to end these wars all around the world is through popular mobilization. We need thousands of people out into the streets to oppose the wars and let the U.S. government know that even though they say that they're doing this in our name, it's not in our name, and we don't support it.
For many, the events of the last few months are reminiscent of the US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003. With diplomacy being tested to its limits, what will Washington and Tehran do next? Sulaiman Sais, SBC News.